Task 2 talks about contributing towards maintaining an FSP license. Task 2 has 9 qualifying criteria. Let's look at Task 2, Qualifying Criteria 4. Explain the implications for a representative if an accreditation is suspended or withdrawn or lapsed in terms of the MedicalSchemes Act, 1998 or any other enabling legislation. Let us now talk about licenses that are suspended, withdrawn, or have lapsed. We will start with a suspension and a withdrawal of a license by the Commissioner. These two regulatory actions can be taken against an FSP for failing to comply with the Phase Act and the conditions imposed on a license authorization. A suspension or withdrawal of a license carries serious implications. They both mean that an FSP is no longer authorized to render financial services, even if it's for a period of time. So, what exactly is the difference between a suspension and a withdrawal? A suspension is when the license is taken away temporarily so that non-compliance issues can be investigated or corrected. A withdrawal, on the other hand, is when the non-compliance issues are so serious that an FSP's license is taken away and the business needs to close and is prohibited from rendering any financial services. A withdrawal is that serious. The following is a list of reasons why a license may be suspended or ultimately withdrawn by the registrar. Remember that when we refer to the registrar, we are also referring to the Commissioner and the FSCA. The reasons are: 1. The FSP or its key individual no longer meets any one of the fit and proper requirements. 2. The FSP operating without an approved key individual. You must remember that all FSPs must have a key individual that is approved by the FSCA or registrar or commissioner. 3. The FSP not disclosing all required information when applying for a license or submitting false or misleading information. 4. The FSP's failure to comply with whatever provisions of the Phase Act and its General Code of Conduct. 5. The FSP's failure to pay annual levies, administrative penalties, or any interest that is charged or imposed. 6. The FSP's failure to comply with a directive issued under the Phase Act. 7. The FSP's failure to comply with license conditions and restrictions. Before the FSCA initiates a suspension or withdrawal of a license, the following process must take place. The FSCA may consult other regulatory authorities to get more information regarding the case at hand. The FSCA must notify the FSP of the intention to suspend or withdraw the license, as well as the reasons of such an action. Once the FSP has been notified, the FSCA will provide the FSP an opportunity to respond to its action. The FSCA must notify the FSP of the time frame of the suspension as well as the terms and conditions that must be met before the suspension can be lifted. The FSCA will also set reasons or terms and conditions for the withdrawal of a license. These terms and/or conditions may include prohibiting the FSP from carrying on its business as an FSP in order to protect the interests of clients and the public. The FSCA will consider the response from the FSP before making a final decision to suspend or withdraw its authorization. The FSCA may also decide not to take these actions if the matter has been rectified. Once a decision has been made, the registrar will notify the FSP of the outcome in writing. In a case where the registrar suspends or withdraws a license, it must also notify the FSP of the reasons why such action was taken. This must also be published on its website and other media platforms. During the period of suspension, the FSP will be regarded as unauthorized. Again, this means the FSP cannot render financial services whilst suspended. An important distinction that needs to be made is that a suspended license can have its suspension lifted and the FSP allowed to carry on rendering financial services. But a withdrawn license cannot be reinstated. Where the registrar decides on a withdrawal, that FSP may be debarred from rendering financial services business for a period of time. This means the FSP will not be allowed to apply for a new license for a set period of time. We discussed that in order for a license to be suspended or withdrawn, the registrar must follow certain prescribed steps. There is, however, an exception to this. Where the registrar has reasonable grounds to believe that actions of an FSP may be causing serious financial harm to clients or the public, then the registrar can provisionally suspend or withdraw a license without following the prescribed steps mentioned earlier. In this instance, the registrar will inform the FSP of the action taken and give reasons. It may also publish this provisional action on its website or other media platforms. Once notified, the FSP will have an opportunity to respond against the action taken. The registrar will consider the response from the FSP and make a final decision. In considering the FSP's response, the registrar will make a decision to either lift the suspension or withdraw the FSP's authorization. During any period of the provisional suspension or withdrawal, the licensee will be regarded as an authorized FSP. So, the FSP will not be allowed to render financial services. A lapsing of a license differs from a suspension or withdrawal. This action is initiated by the FSP as a result of an FSP not being capable of complying with the FASE Act due to death of the FSP, prominent sickness being mentally or physically or sequestration of the FSP. Let's start with a scenario where an FSP is a natural person or a sole proprietor. A lapse will be triggered by either one of the following. 1. Where an FSP becomes incapable of carrying on business. This may be caused by a physical or mental disease or even serious injury. 2. Where an FSP is finally sequestrated. This is where an FSP is unable to pay its debts and their assets need to be sold to recover money. And 3, where an FSP dies. Remember, when an FSP, that is a natural person, dies, it means the business also stops to operate. That license cannot be used by any other person. In the case of an FSP that is not a natural person, a license will lapse if any of the following happen. 1. An FSP is finally liquidated or dissolved. This is like a sequestration, but happens to a natural person. It simply means an FSP is no longer able to pay its debts and must be sold to recover money. In other words, the FSP is no longer financially sound. 2. The business of the FSP becomes dormant. This is where an FSP is no longer operating. And 3. If the FSP voluntarily surrenders its license to the FSCA, this is where an FSP no longer wishes to carry on the business of rendering financial services. An important point to make is that the PHASE Act does not talk about reinstatement of a lapsed license. This means that an FSP whose license has lapsed would need to apply for a new license if it wishes to render financial services again in future. We hope you enjoyed the video and learnt a lot. Please make sure to check out our other RE videos.